Hi and welcome to another episode of Delaware County Political News, Meet the Candidate. Today we are here with Danielle Yoch, candidate for Thornbury Township Supervisor. Danielle is a lifelong resident of Delaware County, and she and her husband have lived in Thornbury Township for the last 7 years, where they are raising their 3 children. Danielle is a certified financial planner and small business owner in the county. She is also the president-elect of the Women's Business Connection and a member of the Finance Committee for the Family Support Line. She is running for office because she cares deeply about our community and wants to ensure that all of its residents have a voice on the Board of Supervisors. Danielle, thank you for being a guest on Delaware County Political News.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry. I'm happy to be here.
So what made you run for Township Supervisor?
Like many, on November 9th, 2016, I had an aha moment. And I realized that if I wanted the world for my children to be better, I needed to become more politically involved and take on more responsibility as a member of my community. So at the end of the year, I reached out to the local committee person, Beth Alois, and I spoke with her about what positions were available. And I realized that I had everything that it took to be a supervisor in Thornbury Township. So I decided to put my hat in the ring.
Well, thank you for agreeing to run and participating in the political process.
You're welcome.
Tell us about Thornbury Township. How is it unique?
Thornbury Township is a beautiful historic township on the western edge of Delaware County. It's more rural than some of the other towns in Delaware County, and oddly enough, it is part of the Westchester School District despite being located in Delaware County.
How did that happen? Do you know? How can the school district be in one county, but the rest of the county be governed in Delaware County?
You know, it dates back to colonial times when there was just one county, which was called Chester County. And when they decided to split them into Delaware and Chester County, they went to the landowners, which were mostly farmers, and said, which county would you like to be in? Which county would you like to be in? And so they let them choose. So when you look at the boundary of Thornbury Township, it's very jagged because different landowners chose different counties. And so there's also a Thornbury Township, Chester County, and so both of us are in Westchester schools, I guess, for simplicity's sake.
Thornbury is beautiful and rural. Is there any difficulty with keeping and maintaining the open space?
That's a big priority, and I think the township has a decent amount of open space, but it's important that we partner with Cheney University, which is a historically black university in our township, that to keep them involved in our process so that we can continue to preserve a lot of open space around there. And right now we can get into it later, but there is a pipeline coming through our township which is disrupting some of our open space as well.
How long have you lived in Thornbury Township?
My husband Jimmy and I have moved there in February 2010, so we're coming up on 8 years, and we really love everything the township has to offer. We're always at the community events like the 4th of July Parade and Founders Day and Fall Festival that's coming up, and we are regular attendees at Thornberry Park with our kids during the week.
And how long have you lived in Delaware County?
I was born in Seacane, Pennsylvania. Actually, I was born in Riddle Hospital, which is in Delaware County, but raised in Seacane, Pennsylvania, and then Wallingford. So I'm a lifelong Delaware County resident. My parents are even from Springfield and Glen Olden, so we're generations in Delaware County.
How does Wallingford compare and contrast to Thornbury?
Well, Thornbury has more of a rural feel, I would say. You know, I grew up on a street with probably 25 homes, and my street has 8 houses, so there's just more space for the kids to run around. But Wallingford was a wonderful place to live. It was close to the city and easy to get to and from, you know, cultural events. I loved growing up there.
Good, that's where I live, of course, so I'll disclose that. Glad you said that. You have a financial planning firm in Radnor, correct?
That's correct.
Tell me about that.
So my partner and I started our firm almost 3 years ago, and I've been in the business for 14 years though. And we decided we wanted to have a client-focused business that was independent. We don't own any businesses that manufacture products, and we're purely able to provide the best kind of advice for our clients. We manage over $50 million of assets for individuals who need help along the transitions of life, whether they are approaching retirement, or they've changed jobs, or they've gone through the loss of a spouse. We're able to help them along the way and have a really hands-on relationship with every one of our clients.
Tell us about your family.
Well, my husband and I have 3 children. Our oldest, James, attends Westtown Thornberry Elementary. He just started this year in kindergarten. And we have a daughter who goes to school in the township, the preschool at the Methodist Church there on Thornton Road. She's 4. And we have a baby son who just turned 1.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know you're busy. How do you find time to run for Township Supervisor?
Well, a lot of people ask me that question, and the answer is how could I not find time? Last year, as I said, on November 9th, when I was holding my then 8-week-old baby and realized that I needed to do something civically to make sure that this beautiful township that we live in and our country and democracy as a whole was protected and preserved for future generations.
What issues are involved in this 2017 township race?
Well, the biggest issue is transparency. When I decided to make a run for this, I started attending the meetings in January of this year. They're every other Wednesday, first and third Wednesday of the month at the Township Building. And the first meeting I went to was 10 minutes long from start to finish. Do you think that there was any time for meaningful discussion with community members about issues there?
What issues did they cover in 10 minutes?
Really not many. It was so quick, if you blinked you missed it. So they basically announced at every meeting, now I've learned, not just that one, that prior to the meeting they had an executive session behind closed doors where they made many of the decisions. And it's a very clearly choreographed meeting where the chairman of the board announces a vote and the other 2 vote to approve it, and then they say, any questions or comments? And then they move on to the next ones, and they do not leave a moment for questions or comments.
How are the meetings attended by the residents of the community?
Well, pretty sparsely, at least earlier in the year. As the year has progressed, and this is another issue that's going on in our township right now, there's a pipeline coming through our township that's pumping highly volatile liquids along the route of schools and assisted living communities and some of our residents' homes, within 50 feet of some of their backyards. So as the year has progressed and that project has progressed, there are more and more residents who are affected by that pipeline coming to the meetings and trying to voice their concerns.
Are the meetings televised?
No, they are not.
Are they covered on the internet at all?
They do post meeting minutes, but they're kind of like a few weeks old by the time they get up there.
How about an audio feed at all?
There is not an audio feed, and there is no record of the executive meeting behind closed doors.
Let's talk about the pipeline. Did the supervisors approve the pipeline coming through?
Well, they approved a grading permit that they issued to the company to begin construction behind the Andover community, which is part of our township. And that grading permit was in violation of our own municipal ordinance for 40% open space that the township required of that community. So the ordinance itself is being violated by the permit that the Board of Supervisors issued.
Has a lawsuit been filed?
Yes, there is a pending lawsuit.
Who filed that, do you know?
The Homeowners Association from Andover. And so I've been very involved with the Andover homeowners. I've toured the property after the destruction of the initial round of taking down the trees, and I was just there last night speaking to residents as well. It's really a problem because the drilling is shaking their homes. I mean, they're reporting that they're in their living room and their home is shaking. So many of them have gotten some studies done on their house to have a baseline of if the seismic activity has caused harm in the future.
So what is the status of the lawsuit and the debate regarding the Mariner 2 Sunoco pipeline?
Yes. There are several lawsuits pending. So the one that's in Thornbury Township right now is there's an appeal hearing going on to the zoning board in Thornbury Township. So I was at the first portion of that, which took place almost 2 weeks ago, and there's a continuance of that coming up this Monday, where none of the supervisors actually attended that hearing. And the township manager, who is also the zoning officer, He was there testifying, and also the township engineer, basically not taking any responsibility for what's happening with their homes.
So if the township manager and the zoning officer are one and the same person, I'm going to assume that it's the homeowners association that's appealing whatever order or decision was made at the lower level.
Yes, it was interesting because the company had attorneys there, and the homeowners association had an attorney there, and the township had an attorney there at this hearing. And it was quite clear that the township's attorney was just agreeing with and going with whatever the company's attorney said. It didn't feel like the township was on the side of the residents, which is how it should be.
What other offices are up for election in Thornbury Township?
Well, we're excited because we have Chuck Lynn running as a school board director for Westchester schools, and so his jurisdiction will cover Thornbury Township and some areas of Westchester as well.
And you use the term "we." You're talking about the Thornbury mid-county Democrats?
Yes, of which Thornbury is a part.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Thornbury used to have its own committee, the Thornbury Democrats, but earlier this year, they merged with the Mid-County Democrats. Am I correct?
That's correct. Thornbury had a very committed group of Democrats in the township, but because of our size, we're not a very big township in the county, it made more sense to merge with the Mid-County Democratic group, who is a robust group of people, and they also have economies of scale in terms of campaign literature and signs. They know how to do things on a higher level, and it worked out better for us because we had the benefit of the bigger group behind us.
So anyone who wanted to find out more information about the Thornbury division of the Mid-County Dems would go to...
So you can find information about me on there and information about Thornbury Democratic Committee, and sign up to help if you're looking to canvass. We are looking for volunteers.
And also in there would be your running mate who's running for...
School board.
Chuck Lynn.
Yes, that's correct.
Danielle, why should voters vote for you? Why will you be a good township supervisor?
Well, for one thing, I am committed. I am committed to our community. I am passionate about the future for my children and our neighbors' children. I want to make sure that every person in our community is represented on the Board of Supervisors and has a voice. And I want to bring sunshine to the decision-making process. When there is a decision made on the Board of Supervisors, I believe it should be made in front of our residents so that we can have an opportunity for meaningful exchange. And I have extensive experience with budgeting and planning, and that is a big part of what we're doing in the township. I want to make sure that all of our tax dollars are spent wisely, and that if contracts are awarded, it's to the best, most qualified contractor with the best price, not just a friend of somebody.
What is your campaign message?
My campaign message is one of transparency and, I want to say, hope, because we have been under one-party rule in Delaware County and in Thornbury Township for decades. Almost my whole lifetime in Thornbury Township. And I want to give hope to the members of the community who are out there who don't feel that they are represented on the Board of Supervisors or in their local government in general.
As you canvass, what complaints have you heard from that minority voice who doesn't feel represented?
Well, I spoke with someone yesterday who told me that they tried to suppress his son's vote at the election last year. His son is a student at Cheney University, and apparently many Cheney University students they tried to turn them away to vote. That's a really big problem. I also heard from many residents who have applied for permits to amend a fence on their house or build a deck, and it took months, even 18 months for one of the residents. Yet when a big public company comes to apply for a permit, it was approved in 3 days. That's problematic for me. The taxpayers should have priority over the Board of Supervisors' time and decisions.
What is your biggest strength?
Well, I'll tell you that I think my biggest strength is my vulnerability, which some in our society would think that's a weakness, but I try to bring my authentic self to every part of my life, in my business, with my family, and in this campaign.
What would you say your biggest weakness would be?
Well, if anything, sometimes I take things a little too close to my heart. When I see residents suffering or fellow humans suffering around the world, it brings me great sadness, and I'm really right there with them because we are all one.
Can also be considered a biggest strength, too. What are you most excited about now?
I am really excited about becoming the newest supervisor. I am so excited about this campaign, and I think I mentioned earlier that I'll paraphrase a quote from Margaret Mead about a small group of committed citizens changing the world and being the only thing that ever has. I really see that in Thornberry and in the Mid-County Dems and in the Delaware County Dems as a whole. There are many committed citizens that are looking to make a change in our communities, and I am excited to see where this takes us.
This election year, these odd years, in my opinion, have been misnamed off-year elections because Democrats typically don't turn out. What do you want to say to residents who don't vote in this off-year election?
Please consider voting. Please come out on November 7th. It is so important that we have a voice in who represents us locally, as much or even more so than when we have a voice in the presidential election.
Why? Why is it important to vote in local elections?
Well, the local officials are the ones who are giving permits to corporations to uproot your trees in the backyard. They're the ones who are deciding how our tax dollars are spent and deciding what open space to preserve or what to sell to developers. We need, if you want to be involved in that decision-making process, it is crucial because once they've already made a decision, it's too late sometimes.
Danielle, how many votes approximately, of course, I don't expect that you know the exact number, did you get in the primary?
About 185, and that was before I talked to many residents.
Okay, 185 votes. How many did Clinton and Trump get in the national election?
66 million for Clinton, 63 million for Trump.
So, how much farther would a local voter get in voting for you than they would get for Trump or Hillary Clinton?
That's a good question, Larry. Every single vote matters. This election will come down to being decided by maybe 12 votes. So if you're thinking of sitting out, or if you can't get there, call me. I'll come and pick you up. I'll sit with your kids outside of the polling place. Anything I can do to help to get you involved and to get you out.
12 votes or less, right, Danielle?
Or less. And I wanted to say, that Democrats turning out, I was very hopeful to read after the primaries this year that something like 8,000 more Democrats turned out in this off-year primary than in previous off-year primaries. So I'm hopeful that that trend will continue with this general election in the fall.
Danielle, I understand that you were invited to debate your opponent, but it didn't happen. What occurred?
Well, yes. Luckily, the League of Women Voters invited me and my opponent to a candidates forum at Cheyney University that was to take place later this month, and unfortunately, she declined. I don't know what's going on in her head, but I do think it's a shame that the voters of Thornbury Township will miss out on an opportunity to really get some clarity on the issues from both sides.
And what would you have used that opportunity to express?
My commitment to this community and my commitment to transparency in our government, which I feel is lacking with the current Board of Supervisors.
Danielle, that's all we have time for today, but I want to thank you for being a guest on Delaware County Political News.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry. It's been a pleasure.
I also want to say that we want everyone to vote, Democrats and Republican alike, and independents, green voters, yellow voters, any political party, because when the public comes out and votes, then we have a true representation of a community. We have been here with Danielle Yoch, candidate for Thornbury Township Supervisor, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. If you like this video, please don't forget to forward this link to all your friends on your contact list and Facebook friends. And if you like this channel, please follow, like, share, and subscribe. We're signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.